Ralph Poynter, Ralph Schoenman, and Mya Shone with an update on the case of Lynne Stewart. It's been quite a while, and we want to bring you up to date on what Lynne's been doing, the status of her case, and how her case relates to what's going on in the world. Ralph Poynter, you've been back and forth to Texas many times since our last update. Please give us the status of Lynne's case and how she's doing.
Well, I'm in Fort Worth, Texas right now, looking for one more visit to Lynne this week. When I ask her, how are you doing, Lynne, her answer always begins with, Ralph, I'm in jail. And after, a little bit of laughter, she continues with what's happening in jail. Her health is not good. We knew that when she went into jail. And of course, when she says jailhouse medical care is an oxymoron, there is no such thing. She's fighting it mentally. She is very well. She's working on other inmates' cases. She is not allowed to be an attorney, but she assists people in writing letters, and she has been successful at it. But she reminds me that even though people's dates have been changed, nobody's getting out of jail. And the biggest issue is that people who were supposed to have their sentences changed because, like the latest Obama initiative, crack cocaine and powder cocaine are supposed to get the same sentence, and so many people of color were convicted of crack cocaine and got large sentences. And since this has been overturned, no one has gotten out of the Fort Worth jail because they announced that they haven't done their paperwork, although people should be getting out. That will reflect on everything, all of the cases that were discussed and done while she is working on them in prison. Even though there are dates that people have been given, they will not get out on the date because the paperwork has not been done.
Ralph, I'd like to return to Lynne's actual status. Before she went to jail, she was due to have an operation. And as we've reported before, the court refused to allow her out and the time to have that operation.
Well, they wouldn't even allow the operation to proceed before her bail was revoked, and she was remanded to prison. In short, she was scheduled to have an operation at a major hospital in New York, and notwithstanding that, the court failed to permit that to proceed and required her imprisonment before a scheduled operation for which she had a dire need was allowed to take place.
And as a result, Lynne is such a trooper and you're such a trooper that we're really understating the actual situation of Lynne's health. She's had medical crises in September and October, and thanks to her family, particularly her daughter and you, she's overcome these crises. But she's been back and forth to the clinic. She's been bedridden at times, and she's had severe infections.
They didn't even inform her when there was an appropriate medication waiting at the pharmacy. She's been deprived of the medication she needs, and the medication is only part of the issue because it's the actual surgery that she requires. And so she's made to endure a condition for which she is not treated appropriately and for which the surgery that is essential is prevented from taking place. This is not just prison per se. This is a specific and vicious political act. It's an adequate reflection of the nature of this system and the intention of the people in power.
And as predictable, her condition worsens.
So, Ralph, I understand that you and your daughter and the lawyers are having a full campaign to make it so that Lynne can have the required operation. Is there something that we all can do to help you in this effort?
Well, as Lynne says, the Bureau of Prisons is numbed in terms of the requests of the inmates, all of them, not only Lynne Stewart. She witnessed the death of a woman who was on a dialysis machine, and you know all of the complications that get involved there. And the woman got very ill, and they tried to get one of the nurses. There were two nurses on duty. to administer to her. She claimed of being in pain. Lynne helped her down the hallway, and they ended up in the restroom across the hall from the nurse's quarter. She went to get the nurses. They said, she's just faking it. Nothing is wrong with her. This is the woman who was ill on the dialysis machine. And as a result, when the nurse came very late, she died on the bathroom floor with Lynne there. And as Lynne said to me, Ralph, I do not want to go that way. This is the nature of prison health care. And as Lynne says, it's an oxymoron. And so, yes, Lynne's health is worsening. She grins and bears it. If the operation had taken place, she would have been comfortable, more comfortable in her body. And as a result, the operation that is necessary has not taken place. And we are trying to get them to send her to one of the local hospitals to get this operation. And to date, no success. So letters might help her. As Lynne says, they care not and they need not care. This is the nature of the American prison system.
Yes, on that score, many, many months ago, Lynne listed me as a person who would have the right to visit her. And as you know, I did visit her when she was at MCC. I have not heard to date, and is it true that they are restricting her visitors to just the immediate family?
Yes, they have just opened it up slightly now, and they're putting a few names on the list. But as Jill Elijah now works for the New York State prison system. She was a lawyer representing Marilyn Buck. She said to me once in a phone conversation, she doesn't know whether it's the water they drink down here in Texas, whether they're just plain mean, whether they're lazy. It's very difficult to get anything done in the hospital that would alleviate the suffering of the inmates here. So I can only concur that this has been our experience. We try. Zenobia has been here. Zenobia is on the phone. They have over-medicated her to the degree whenever she gets a medication or a change in medication, she calls me, I call Z calls me back, Lynne calls me again, and then I tell her what to take and what not to take. Because, as she said, medical health care in the prison is an oxymoron, does not happen, but for our doctor daughter, I fear for Lynne.
Well, to give the flavor of this, as Lynne wrote to Mya and me recently, the operation I was to have and the appellate court disallowed permitted the bladder uterus problems to come back. I got a severe infection that they did not treat until a month and a half after I first reported it. I had mutual antibiotics to which I am resistant, and they hadn't done a culture. They waited. They continued their carelessness by failing to tell me that I had medication waiting at the pharmacy. So to give the flavor here, this is not just bureaucratic incompetence. This is a malicious and deliberate prevention of even the most elementary treatment. As Lynne says, what I really need is the procedure, and I assume once I'm cured of the infection, it'll come back. So you have a chronic situation which is exacerbated by this willful, not merely neglect, but denial of appropriate treatment for the infection that she's been enduring. This is a serious matter, and why or how the courts cannot be challenged and attorneys launch legal demands is beyond my understanding.
And, Ralph, while we're on delays, a date still hasn't been set for the argument at the appellate court. What is the status?
We are looking forward to that. Although we know there is no law, I think what a court appearance does is it teaches the country or anybody who is interested the status of the lack of law in the country. So here the appeal was supposed to be heard in September and October. We have passed September and October, and there is no word. I just request that the appeal will be heard in New York, in which Lynne will not appear. I would like to occupy the courthouse the night before and the morning of the hearing that comes up. So we're still waiting with bated breath.
And this is an appeal of the appeal, essentially, because the appellate court had overturned Judge Codall's sentence and increased Lynne's sentence.